Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Lesson Podcast. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne. When this timer hits 9 minutes and 55 seconds in this recording, you'll have a fully developed life lesson that you can take with you and begin immediately implementing. The podcast falls under the umbrella of my greater personal development efforts, all under the Your Better You brand. For information on accountability coaching or to gain access to tools, tricks, or life hacks, visit yourbetteryouinfo. Thank you for joining me on the journey today. Now, here is this week's life lesson. I'm reworking some of the deals on my coaching packages, and this is not the place where I'm going to sell them to you, but in doing the discussion and talking to some people about just coaching in general, I reached out to some folks who I know who are anti-coaching. They think it's a little too wonky, a little too woo-woo for them to be in the coaching realm or be coached by other folks. And the thing that kept popping up over and over again in conversation is journaling. Essentially writing things down, which is basically how I simply put it, but journaling as the way, the end-all be-all to fix your problems. And essentially they had a valid point in their concerns, because it seems like every single guru out there, and of course they will try to deny being a guru while being gurus, are trying to sell you on some sort of specific journal, some sort of specific journaling process, some sort of magical book that is produced by them and their company and has their own name and their own likeness attached to it. Or maybe it's not necessarily their own journal, but they are sort of falling into the trap of falling in love with some other brand of journal, some other style of journal that people are essentially worshiping into. So an easy way to bring people in is to use someone else's idea, someone else's thoughts, someone else's journal with the personal style that it goes to bring people into it. And that is a problem for a lot of people, because what you have is a lot of people who keep looking to get into journaling because they keep hearing it's such a great thing, buying new journals with new sort of focuses and new sort of checklists to go through and new sort of parameters to kind of live with. And so what they end up with is bunches of new books that they never get through because the journal doesn't actually fit. So let me start by saying that journaling is not a waste of time. It's never a waste of time, because what you're doing by journaling is you're basically just writing down stuff that's happening in your life. And the form and the factor isn't as important as the fact that you are writing it down hopefully as close to real time or as remembered as possible, and putting down some sort of time marker, i.e. a date, maybe even little time markers for the day, so you can go back and review your past and see how well you're doing moving forward, or maybe not so well doing moving forward. In all honesty, no one should care what's in your journal, except for the fact that you are doing a journal, and what you're doing in your journal is helping. Now, there is the factor of if you're not actually taking the time to actively journal or accurately journal, put your things in there and make your things works out for you. That could be a waste of time because you're using up valuable time. You could be doing something else or nothing else maybe. So if you're not actively putting down the right things into your journal and not really doing it, then maybe the journaling thing is a waste of time. But the act of recording what you got going on, that is never a waste of anyone's time. In fact, even if you can't do it properly or consistently, the fact that you keep going back to it is a way to keep learning your way into the actual act. So today is going to be talking about journaling as a very simple concept and how to simply get it done. And you simply get it done by, number one, finding a means to record your data. When most people think about journaling, they think about a diary, which is what it is, but they think about the form factor of the diary. They think, number one, of a glittery notebook with unicorns and hearts and maybe teddy bears that a girl might have for her daily diary. Back in the day when diaries, I guess they still are the thing, but they really were the thing for girls to do and talk on things up. In actuality, doing a diary was something that everybody did way, way back in the day to basically keep track of their days and to pass along what they did in life going forward. That's where journaling really comes from, essentially organizing your thoughts and ideas of what's going on in real time so you can pass it along going forward and people can see what happened to you in the past. So the form factor of a glittery unicorn notebook notwithstanding, the form factor of your journal is essentially anything you can carry around that's not inconvenient, that you'll actually do your best to write into and not forget to write into. So, example, if you want to go and buy a bunch of spiral notebooks at the time of back to school because they're really cheap, that works out. Most of the things I do for work, in fact, of taking notes and going back and forth with things at meetings, come from spiral notebooks because spiral notebooks are easy to keep up with, and if one gets lost, they're easy to replace. And it's really easy to just rip out a sheet of paper and hand it to someone else to get them to do some sort of task, as opposed to something that's in a nicer style notebook. I do have nicer portfolios that I honestly use for when I want to show basically show a higher profile. But for most parts, I usually have a spiral notebook, a regular college rule or wide rule notebook that I scribble things in throughout the day. For more personal things or just kind of things to keep in track together, I do use moleskin style notebooks. And I say moleskin style because you think of, if you've seen them before, you think of the style notebook with the little rubber band around it. It's a brand name, so you can buy any brand you want to. The ones I prefer are the ones that have the dotted pages on them, like bullet journals. And bullet journals aren't necessarily brand name, they're just a journal with bullets, because I like to sort of doodle some things here and there and draw things out. It's easier to do that with the dots than with blank pages or with lined rules. That's just a personal thing for me. However, the bulk of what I actually do keep up with for a journal, keeping up with my daily stuff, actually goes into my phone, or technically into Evernote, the app that syncs with my phone, my tablet, and any computer I have access to. So if I need access to that knowledge, it's synced across multiple platforms I can get to it. But what I have in my journal, in my Evernote, is every day I create a daily journal log for the day, and I log down everything more or less hour by hour as I keep up with them, so I can keep up with my day. I log the time I get up and the time I go to bed. I log every time I take my medication. I log my meals in there. I log more or less important things that happen, and sometimes not so important things as they pop up. That way, the next day I can review things that happen and know when-ish I did stuff and how-ish I did stuff and what important or non-important things sort of got in the way of me getting things done. And that's just a style there. You can write your journal any way you want to, in whatever form you want to. The easiest forms are some sort of book you can carry. Like I said, you can get a real moleskin, you can get a very nice or not so nice journal to walk around with, or you can get a composition book or a spiral notebook and go along those ways. And the second part, as I just said, is essentially just writing stuff down. You don't have to emote yourself and go, "Dear journal, today I felt the worst that I had in months. It was the slag of..." No, all that fancy lettery, flowery stuff is not necessary. Just literally, like I do, list out the day in time frames. 6 a.m., woke up. 6:30, took medication. 6:45, had breakfast. 7:30, worked out for an hour, ran this much time, lifted this many weights, whatever. 10:30, attended meeting with client. 11:30, attended meeting with second client. 12:30, lunch with wife. 2:30, afternoon exercise time. 4:30, picked up daughter from school, went to store to pick up various items she needed, cost of items, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, I have a log of the day in my daily journal so that I can go back day by day by day and review it. Back when I was much more engaged with it, I would take my daily journal, and every weekend, Saturday or Sunday, I would go through everything I did every single day and kind of do a little bit of a recap from then. Not quite that engaged as I was in the past, but I can still go back day by day, and if someone asks me about something that happened a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I can go back to my journal, and most likely I recorded something to go along with that. So that's what you need to think about when you are journaling. Think about just putting down what you need to do, and think about having it in a form factor that you're not going to lose, you're not going to not keep up with. It can be as simple, as I said, as a spiral-bound notebook or a little notepad you can stick in your pocket, or it can be as elaborate as a beautiful journal. It can be just simply the Notes app in your phone. I use Evernote, but there's actually journaling notebooks or journaling-styled apps you can pick for yourself. If you want something super fancy, more power to you. The simple thing is just do the simple thing. Write your stuff down in some sort of a journal. Thank you for tuning into this week's podcast. We are doing a lot of things behind the scenes. So you will notice if you keep up with the websites, especially at my main website, which I tell you about, jclevelandpayne.net, you'll see some different things going there. Also, we're doing some actual work at what's supposed to be my newest website for the big part of the business, which is morebettermedia.net, or morebettermedia.com, I'm sorry. So you can check those things out as well. And of course, the website for this podcast, the 10-Minute Life Lesson, and its sister podcast, which is, of course, Steps Your Better You, which gives you a lesson in 90 seconds. All those things found at yourbetteryouinfo, which you can also find information on coaching and things on there. And you'll find more information very, very soon about all the stuff that I'm doing in the background to revive and rewrite a lot of our coaching and training programs, including how to do a daily journal, a way to, yes, I know I just told you that people out there are trying to sell their own journals. I even tried to sell my own branded journal. What I'm doing now is not selling the branded journal, but selling some branded journaling triggers, because you can buy whatever notebook you want to. That's already stated. So you'll see more of that down the line in the next couple of weeks. So that's coming down the line. So there's your threat. There's your promise. There it is. I'm going to sell you something in a few weeks about journaling. Of course, yourbetteryou.info, the home for these podcasts, and of course, plenty of free stuff as well. So check it out. And if you want to make contact with us on the social media, just look for Your Better You on this in the social medias as well. We're on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can check those out there. And you can email us directly at yourbetteryouinfo@gmail.com. So if you have a question about something that I'm talking about or something that I'm selling, you can check it out by sending the email. As I said, yourbetteryouinfo@gmail.com. jclevelandpayne.net, my main website, and jclevelandpayne@gmail.com, my main email address. You want to catch me out there. And the big thing is just kind of stick around with this podcast, because that's the simplest way we can keep up with things. Make sure you are subscribed to this podcast. Make sure you're sharing this podcast with other like-minded people trying to improve their lot. And make sure you're here next week. We'll get you another great episode and a great lesson that will get down in 10 minutes. Before the 10-minute mark hits in this podcast, you can get started on a awesome life lesson. Brought to you by us from yourbetteryou.info and the 10-Minute Life Lesson Podcast.